good afternoon, everybody. We're glad you're joining us in this webinar for using Zoom for distance learning and collaboration. Now, some things we're going to cover today are how to use Zoom to both connect with your colleagues and students as a teacher. And then we're going to end our session today with how to get started doing that. And that would include creating a Zoom account, very easy to do, downloading the app, and then running your first meeting. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. First things, make sure that you are asking questions over here by clicking on the chat. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the chat. We have a couple people who are manning the chat for us and can answer those questions for you. So I want to introduce myself and my colleagues who are joining us today. My name is Chad Belford. I'm with Instructional Technology. And we also have Jessica and Cindy. Can you all say hello?
Hello.
And so we're all here to answer your questions. We're all going to chime in as we see fit. And we encourage you, again, to ask any questions you want in that chat. And one of us will get to those questions. But our goal here is to get you using Zoom as quickly as you can for whatever purpose you're going to use it. Just to, again, if you're going to use it with your colleagues or if you're going to use it with your students, we want you to be able to do that. You'll notice that we are using Google Meet right now. And there are several different options you can use for video conferencing. You can use Google Meet. You can use, of course, Zoom. With your colleagues, you can actually use Skype for Business. There's a video chat option in Skype for Business. Very easy to do. It may be the easiest way to connect with your colleagues because it is something that everybody has, everybody knows. And I just realized I'm not showing my face or anything on the screen, and you're just hearing my voice. I'm Chad Belford, and off to the side you can see Cindy and Jessica who are joining me. So with that said, want to share a couple of tools with you during these uncertain times, if you will, that we have created. Instructional Technology has been working tirelessly for over a week till all hours of the night trying to get some resources created for you and to support you. We want to encourage you and remind you that we are here to serve you and support you as teachers. Every campus has an instructional technology specialist. If you don't know who that is, we're going to walk you through how to find out. Please lean on your instructional technology specialist at this time. We are all trained in how to do this, so you don't have to reach out specifically to me, Cindy, or Jessica. Your instructional technology specialist can definitely help you with that. So first and foremost, I want to walk you through how to do that. We do have a website. It is neisd.net/ITS. You can go through that way, or if you go through departments, Instructional Technology is our department. Once you go there, there is a staff directory right here. You click on that, that's going to show you who every instructional technology specialist is in our goofiness. We have a lot of fun as a group, and we try not to take our job too seriously, of course, when we need to, but as you can see below each picture, you can see all the campuses that each of us.
Your screen. You need to share your screen.
It looks like it's working. Is Jessica, are you?
I can see it.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. There's something wrong with me.
Yeah. I have, by the way, if you see me looking over, if I'm on screen, I have another computer next to me who is joined as a participant in this video. So you might see me looking back and forth. That's why I'm looking over there. Again, your instructional technology specialist should be on the staff page. Just look for your campus, and that would be who you need to reach out to if you have any questions. So that's the first resource we want to make sure we share with you. The second resource we want to share with you is our team, our instructional technology team, has put together a distance learning resource site for you as teachers. You can find that by going to Launchpad. Once you're in Launchpad, you'll scroll down a bit, and there is an icon right here for NEISD distance learning. I checked in earlier, and when I first signed into Launchpad, there actually was a little bubble here that alerted and notified me of the NEISD distance learning website. So you may see that too, but if you don't, it's right here. And when you click on that, that will take you to this website. You'll choose whether you're elementary or secondary. I'm going to choose secondary for the sake of showing y'all. Once you're here, there's a very simple process. You go through 3 steps. The first one is choosing your platform, meaning, are you going to use Google Classroom with your students? Are you going to use Seesaw with your students? That type of thing. Second step is this links to all the curriculum that we have set up recently. Curriculum instruction is set up, and how we have supported them with our resources, and that's where that is. And then the third one are some additional resources that we've set up and some best practices with using online tools and conducting distance learning or remote learning with your students. Also, on the top, there is a webinars link. When you click on that, that will show you a ton of webinars that we are currently conducting. Right now, we're conducting one. There are 3 more on Monday and 3 more on Tuesday for using Zoom for distance learning. There are 2 during the day, 11:30 and 3 o'clock, you'll see. And then we have one at night, 7 p.m. for those who are still in need of teacher choice hours. You can take this and watch it at 7 p.m. And those 2, this one and this one, will count as an hour of teacher choice. So I wanted to share that with you. Again, that is the webinars link on the top of our distance learning website. And specifically with Zoom, since that's why we're here to learn, this virtual meetings link on our distance learning resource site will take you to a web page that gives you some various resources for how to use both Zoom and Google Meet. When you click on the Zoom link, it will have various videos, some helpful tips and tricks. We'll be uploading either this recording or our previous recording somewhere on this website for you to come back and watch. Should you miss something or forget something, you can come back and watch this webinar. It'll be here on this page. We encourage you to come here often. This is a fluid website. It's a living, breathing document that could change often. So come back and use this website. Again, you'll find it by going to Launchpad and clicking NEISD Distance Learning, and that will get you this website. The last and final, well, I guess last and final are the same thing, aren't they? The final website we're going to share with you is a website that we've developed for parents. I'm going to go ahead and go in here real quick and see if I can mute somebody. There we go. Hearing a little bit of feedback. There we go. There we go. That's better. The last resource we're going to show you is a resource that we put together for parents. If you go to the Northeast homepage, let me go ahead and do that again. Boy, my fingers are tired. Here's our Northeast homepage. You'll notice this blue button right here, NEISD Distance Learning. That is a website that we've created where we've put aside some resources for parents and students. Some, as you can see, tools for success, how to use Google Classroom and Seesaw if they've never used that, specifically for parents, links to our NEISD resources like our Launchpad. There's also some various resources in here. So encourage your parents and students to go here if they have any questions. We also are conducting parent webinars. Tonight there will be one, as a matter of fact, for parents to tune in and learn how to support their children during this this transition from remote learning or distance learning. So again, 3 resources. We have our NEISD distance learning website right here. You get to that through Launchpad. You can go to our ITS Instructional Technology website and find out who your instructional technology specialist is. Sorry, I kind of messed that up, didn't I? There we go. Click on Staff Directory. That will walk you through your instructional technology specialist. And last but not least, we have our parent and teacher website, and that was found off of the homepage by clicking this blue button. So we wanted to make sure you are aware of those resources before we get started. Last but not least, thank you all for your patience and understanding and just kind of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, throwing on your backpack and just going. We want to applaud you for just jumping in and doing what you have to do. We've heard very little complaining. We've interacted with several teachers who have just they just made it happen. And that's what we do, isn't it? We just make things happen for our kiddos. And we just want to applaud you and congratulate you and just remind you we're here to support you through this transition. All right, let's talk Zoom. To get to the Zoom Launcher app, which is what we're going to have you install at the end of this webinar, all you have to do is very simply type the word Zoom. right here in the search box on your computer. That will launch this app right here. And when you load that, it might ask you to sign in. And we encourage you again to sign in and sign up for your account using your Google account, your Northeast Google account. That's the best way to do this. So once you launch this app, let's go through the lay of the land here a bit. First thing here, you'll see that there is a new meeting button. If you wanted to just start a meeting right now on the spur of the moment, you can click that and start a new meeting. There are some options here, this drop down. You can choose whether when you start a new meeting, if it begins with your video, in other words, your webcam started or not. You can choose to turn that on or off. And then also there's a checkbox here for using something called a personal meeting ID or a PMI. This is essentially your personal meeting room. And the advantage of using something like this is that the ID or the link that people need to use to find your personal meeting is the same. It doesn't change. Now, the disadvantage of that is that as you have teachers or as you have multiple meetings, they might overlap. Some are still in the previous meeting if you have back-to-back meetings, for instance. So there's a pro and con to using that. It is nice because it's the same meeting ID every time. If you have no reason to use Zoom except with one group of people or a couple groups of people, you may just want to use your personal meeting ID because it will remain the same for every meeting that you ever have. Your participants know to click that one link. It won't be a new link every time you host a meeting. All right. So if you choose not to do that, we recommend scheduling a meeting. So if you go to schedule, there are some important things in here that you have to look at and consider changing. First off, you of course want to give your meeting a topic, choose the date, time, and duration. If you feel like this will be a recurring meeting, in other words, on the same day at the same time, you can choose to click that. The next one here is meeting ID. This is the personal meeting ID we just talked about. If you wanted to, again, use your PMI or personal meeting ID, the one that doesn't change, you can click that. Or it will generate a new link and a new ID every time you start or schedule a new meeting. One way that you can safeguard your meeting against outsiders is to consider having a meeting password. If you click this, this will allow you to come up with your own password, or you can use the recommended password that's there. So for instance, if you wanted to post this in your Google Classroom, you can actually put the link, which I'm going to show you here in a second, to your meeting along with this password, and that would help to ensure that only your students are getting in there. Now, one would argue that, well, if you're putting it in Google Classroom, only your students should be in Google Classroom, and that's true. But it does help to safeguard in case anybody shares your link outside of your Google Classroom or Seesaw. So just one small layer of security and to safeguard your meeting against outsiders. Next one here is video. Whether you want the host to be able to have the video on or off, typically you want that to be on. But this is an important one right here. When participants come into your meeting, you can choose right here whether their video, in other words, their webcam, will be turned on or off when they initially come in the meeting. Now, that doesn't mean that once they're in the meeting, they can't change that and actually start their video. They can. But initially, when they come in, you can set it up to where they don't have their video on. Once we're in the meeting, I'll show you, you can actually shut off participant videos. Audio here, this is just how people are going to hear the meeting. This has nothing to do with the mic. This has everything to do with how you're going to hear. So you want to typically have this as computer audio or telephone and computer audio. You don't want to choose just telephone because then when somebody comes in on a computer, they may not be able to hear you. So I would not mess with this. Keep it here or keep it here. Calendar, you can actually send an invite to your Outlook calendar or Google Calendar. So if you're setting up a meeting for your colleagues, you can have this selected. And when you schedule the meeting, it will send them an Outlook calendar invite with the link to the meeting. So it's just one way to easily get this into the hands of your colleagues. All right, under the advanced options, make sure you click that to expand so you can see, because there are a couple of important things here. Number one, we mentioned in an earlier webinar, to enable the waiting room. This is a nice feature. It allows people who are there early to get into the waiting room, and then you as a host get to enable their entrance into your meeting. You do not want to select this one typically. This will allow participants to come in early before you actually join. Not a good idea with students to have that set up. You want to try to have some oversight as if you would in a classroom. So you don't want anybody coming in before you launch the meeting. This one is an important one. It mutes everybody upon entry. That would allow it to be a nice quiet environment. Excuse me. When, for instance, if you're a teacher setting this up for your students, when they come in, they're automatically going to be muted. That way you don't hear the noises from their house and things like that. And we'll show you once in the meeting how you can permanently make that stay muted, the participants to stay muted. Automatically record meeting. You can actually record each of your meetings. It will save it as an MP4 file on your computer, and then allow it from there. You can post it in your Google Classroom, in Google Drive, on YouTube, wherever you typically put videos, and then you can share those out. So for students who couldn't make a meeting or colleagues who couldn't make a meeting, you can record it and then share that with them. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and schedule a meeting here just for giggles. I'm gonna keep it at 4 o'clock for today. It's gonna be an hour long. I'm gonna click schedule. Excuse me. Once you schedule your meeting, all of your scheduled meetings will appear right here. And one thing you'll notice here is I don't have to wait until 4 o'clock, or in this case, 3 o'clock, to start this meeting. I actually could, and this is actually the one that we're about to do. I can actually choose start, and it would actually start right now. So you don't have to wait. You can come in here and click start. Sorry about that. Let me close out of my... That was the email, as a matter of fact, from my scheduled meeting in my Outlook. That's what you just heard, the calendar appointment. Okay, if you want to look at your other scheduled meetings, you can click up here on the meetings tab. This will be all the meetings, upcoming meetings that you have scheduled. You can get in here and edit. You can delete. You can copy the invitation, which is nice. When you copy that, that will give all the necessary information for anybody to join it. You can then send it via email or Google Classroom or whatever. But we're going to show you an easier way to do that here in a second. All right, go back home. So we talked about starting a new meeting from scratch, talked about scheduling, joining a meeting, really easy to do. This would be as a participant. So even though I'm a host, participants will probably want to have this app also. It's just easier to use. So if a teacher or a colleague wants to send me their meeting ID or their personal link name, I can actually put it here and join their meeting in real time. I can type whatever name I want. Be aware of this. Students can type whatever they want here. However, when you're in the meeting as a host, you can actually rename that if there's any knuckleheadedness going on, if you will. You can also choose not to connect your audio and to turn off your video as a participant when you join a meeting. And share screen is not something that you'll probably use. That allows you to share your screen in an existing meeting or start a meeting with just sharing your screen. And that's typically not how you would do it. You would start with face-to-face as we're doing right now. Okay, so that's the options here. I'll move up here to, and Jessica and Cindy, please chime in if I miss something, okay? I'm gonna move up here to this gear. There are a couple of things in here we might want to talk about. And again, we have not started a meeting yet. This is the Zoom Launcher app that we're going to show you how to download here towards the end of the webinar. So once you're in here, there's this gear. You want to make sure you click that. There are a couple of things you might want to change. By default, Zoom has some things checked and unchecked that you might want to modify. Mainly right here under video, by default, HD is enabled, and bear with me, I'm going to go shut off my video in Google Meet so that I can enable my video in Zoom. There we go. Okay. Once we start the meeting, that will pop up actually. My apologies. There we go. Okay. So I'm in the gear for Zoom under the video tab. The first thing is this enable HD. You can see the quality difference there. It's very pixelated. By default, this is unchecked, all right? So you'll want to come in here and check this, and you can see how clear that is. Now you can see all my wrinkles and my crow's feet. So maybe you don't want it turned on, I don't know. And that brings me to this third one. You can actually click this button to touch up your appearance. I don't see a huge difference here, to be honest. It kind of softens it a little bit, I think, but
I like to use it.
yeah. Your call. I mentioned one here that's really important, this mirror my video. Now, let me show you what this does. Right now, I'm raising my right hand, right? And so if I click that, you'll see that it's actually, I'm sorry, this actually by default is checked. Forgive me. This is not unchecked. This is checked typically. So you can see that just like a mirror, it looks like it's my left hand if you think about it. If I have something up like the back of my phone, you can see that this is backwards. You may want to uncheck that so that if you're showing students something in your webcam, they can read it. All right. So just to recap here, enable HD will be unchecked by default. You'll want to check it. And mirror my video will be checked, okay? Like this, you'll want to uncheck it, okay? And we have a resource on how to change some of those things that we'll post on the Zoom website, on the distance learning website. We just haven't had a chance to put it up there, but we'll have that document there for you. A couple more things here. These are already selected. This spotlight my video when I speak, you may want to consider having that if you're having some interaction with your colleagues or with your students. What will happen is the video will change to whoever's speaking. So you may want to check that. I think that's unchecked by default. Did I miss anything, Cindy, Jessica?
I think you're good. I think you're good.
Okay. All right. While we're in here, let me talk a little bit about this virtual background. This is kind of a cool little thing. It allows you to virtually have these backgrounds. You'll see behind me, I have this little piece of green. It's not much, but I have to use a green screen. Our laptops as instructional technology specialists actually are not as robust as the ones you guys got as teachers. So we have an issue where something doesn't work here, but it will work for you. So don't worry. I'm going to click this picture and you can kind of see in the background, magically the Golden Gate Bridge is behind me. You also have some videos here, which are kind of cool. So you can see this. There's a built-in video with, oh, isn't that great? That's where all of us want to be right now, right? You can upload your own picture and or video by clicking on this. Kind of a neat little option. I have this checkbox right here checked. I have a green screen. You can uncheck that and you'll see that it says that my computer doesn't meet the requirements, and it doesn't. But yours as teachers, your laptops do. Now, if you're on a personal device, you'll have to see if this works or not. But if you don't have a green screen, and most of us don't, you can get in here and actually click on this little utility here. This allows you to click the background of your background, of the wall behind you. So I can click on that, and then when I come up here, I can click on what anywhere on the background wall, and it will do its best to try to make that see-through. Now mine's kind of not having a clue what to do because I have the green screen there and that's messing it up. But anyway, just know you can do that. Incidentally, this is a good time for me to stop and pause and recommend, if you're doing one of these video chats, whether it's with your colleagues or your students, you sit in front of a wall with just a wall behind you. You don't want somebody or something walking behind you while you're doing a video chat, especially from home. Fill in the blanks there with a scenario. You all probably figure that out. So be very diligent about turning yourself so that you have a wall behind you. That's a really good thing to do when you're doing this. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here and get started with the Zoom meeting. I'm going to go ahead and just click Zoom meeting. And I am going to use my personal ID because I'm going to have Cindy join me. Cindy, do you have that number?
I've already been waiting. You'll see what happens when you get there. Just go ahead and start the meeting.
I'm going to begin my meeting then. All right, so what you should see here is I am in a Zoom meeting right now. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at my calendar. Does my calendar say October? Have I not changed my calendar? I'm so sorry. My goodness. Okay, sorry folks. So one thing in Google Meet, in your screen, if you do not see the controls on the bottom here, your Google Meet window, the little white thing that pops up might be covering. So you may have to wiggle your mouse or click on the middle of your screen in our Google Meet meeting in order to see these controls. I'm looking on this other device I have here, and it keeps popping up the bar on the bottom, so you may have to do that. Okay, so here we are. We have Cindy, using her virtual background on her phone, right? You're on your phone?
I'm in space.
Yeah, nice. Brings up a good point. There is a Zoom app for Android and iOS for students, colleagues, whoever. They have to download the app in order to use a mobile device in a meeting, whether you're hosting it or participating. So just be aware of that. Otherwise, we encourage you to use this Zoom app that we've been talking about, and we're going to show you how to download here.
And it does have limited features, but it does have the virtual background, which works really nicely. And I've got chairs behind me. And
wow, that's really good.
Mhm.
If something like this happens, where your participants come in and they're in the middle of the screen, all you have to do is double click on your face and it will come back and pin your video. All right, so that will happen as people come in. Zoom wants to bring up whoever the most recent person in the meeting is, but if you double click on your name or in your face, or you right click and choose pin video, it will pin this video right here in the middle. All right, so just be aware of when that happens, and it will happen, how to resolve that. All right, here we go. Top left-hand corner. First thing I want to point out is in the address bar here, you can see my meeting ID. This is the quickest way to get this into somebody's hand. Just give them that number. Or if you click this I right here, this will give you all the information about your meeting, including a really handy URL that you can copy. And now that that's copied, I can just go paste that in an email, in an IM, in my Google Classroom for my students, wherever. So that's a nice way to get that. Again, I clicked on the I right here in the top left-hand corner. Okay. All right. Bottom left-hand corner. We're going to move across here through the controls and kind of walk you through what some of these things are for. Bottom left-hand corner, there's a mute. You'll see that this is bouncing. That's telling me that my voice is being picked up by Zoom. If I click it, so you should just be aware that, be careful if some people are complaining that they can't hear you. Make sure that you didn't mute yourself. To the right of that, if you click the up arrow, there are some options here. If you have some headsets or a set of a pair of headphones or a headset or earbuds, or maybe you're using a webcam with a built-in microphone, that microphone will be listed here, and it will let you choose from your various microphone options. So just be aware, if you're using an external device, headphones, earbuds, microphone, you may have to click this up arrow to go find it. Stop video. This allows, just like it says, it will stop my video. All right, so you should still be able to hear me, but now you see my avatar instead of my video. I'm going to click start video, and then my video will start up again. To the right of that, the up arrow, there are some options in here. This particular device has two cameras, a front-facing and a rear-facing. If you're using the app, you'll have those same options, front-facing, rear-facing camera. Just be aware that those are there. Video settings will actually take us right back to where we were just a minute ago. Remember this screen? This was in the Zoom Launcher app. This is the same exact place where we just were. So just be aware, there's more than one way to get there. Again, those are all the options that we had. Virtual background is the next option. Again, when I click on that, it's going to take me to the same place we were just a minute ago. It's just kind of a shortcut to get back to those video settings in the Zoom app launcher. All right, moving along here, invite. This is how we can invite people. If we're already in the meeting, in our domain, I can put somebody's email, and they should pop up. I can double click, and it will send them an invitation to our current meeting that we're running. Nice little way to get people on board. You'll see some options here, again, to copy the URL, the website address to the link or to the meeting, or you can copy the entire invitation, which is a little bit more information. All right, manage participants. When I click that, you'll see all of the people who are currently in the meeting on the right-hand side. First thing I'll show you is Cindy is a participant. I'm the host. One reason why we recommend Zoom over Google Meet with your students is because there is a definitive host and participant relationship. The host has a lot more controls in Zoom to mute people, to rename, to shut off their video and things like that than Google Meet has. Google Meet is a lot more relaxed. Essentially, everybody is a presenter in Google Meet. And so if I shut somebody's video off or muted them in Google Meet, they can quickly just unmute or turn their video back on. And anybody in Google Meet can present at any time. Whereas in Zoom, I, as the host, control some of those things. So with your students, our recommendation at this point is to use Zoom over Google Meet. You're welcome to use Google Meet if you trust your students and you feel like that's not an issue for you, use it. With your colleagues, use whatever you want, okay? But we just wanted to bring that to your attention. So while I'm here, Cindy is a participant. If I click more, here are some options here. I can stop her video, so I can mute her video essentially. I can make her the host. If I had to leave this meeting right now, I can click make host. I can leave the meeting, sign out, and she can still continue the meeting or be a co-host. You can rename. Remember, when you first join as a participant, you have to type in your name. You might have some students who put some silly stuff there. You can easily get in here and rename. And you can remove students if students, or colleagues are being belligerent or whatever. You can remove people easily by doing that. You can also, on the bottom, you can mute everybody at one time, which is really handy. When you do that, it brings up this window, which is really helpful because there's this important checkbox that you can uncheck, which reads, you can disallow anybody from unmuting themselves. Again, this is the nice feature of Zoom. It gives you a little bit more control. So if I choose this and I click yes, people can't unmute themselves. I'm the only one as a host that can mute them. So I don't want to do that because I want Cindy to be able to do some things in here. So that's mute, unmute all. With one step, I can mute everybody, and with one step, I can unmute everybody. Really handy. This more option, this little drop down has some really important things in it. Mute participants upon entry. You'll notice when I set up this meeting, that was one of the check boxes that I wanted to actually have set up. And you remember when we went through the schedule, that was one of the check boxes that we could do. Mute participants, allow participants to unmute themselves. You can lock the meeting. If you didn't want anybody else to come into the meeting, you can lock it. One thing to remember there is if you have late arrivals, they won't be able to come in. So kind of weigh the benefits of that.
And also, if somebody gets cut off and they want to join the meeting again, if you have it locked, then they won't be able to get back in.
Yeah, good point. All right, so that is the managed participants. One thing you'll learn is when you bring up this panel, it takes up some real estate. To get rid of that, you just have to click manage participants again. So it's a toggle switch. I can turn it on, click it again, turn it off.
And point out that X, open it up again and just show them, you see that X at the top? Don't X that out because that'll close out the whole meeting.
This looks like this is going to exit out of this panel. If you do that, you'll actually end. Yeah, like Cindy said, so be wary of that. Don't click the X. All right, moving along. Polls. I've set this up on my own account. You may or may not have this on your account, but it does allow you to ask some questions and post some questions. I think Cindy and Jessica, let's put a resource on our Zoom website, the distance learning, on how to enable that. I think we had to manually enable that. But
yeah, and then you can have questions that you've created previously, and they will just come up. You can use them whenever you're ready.
Yeah, cool feature. All right, bread and butter right here. This is the important one. Share screen. We don't always necessarily want to just be looking at each other. We want, as a teacher especially, we want to share maybe a Google Drive document or a video that's on my screen, or a website, or a built-in whiteboard, which Zoom has, which is really nice. You do that by clicking this share screen. So I'm going to go ahead and click share screen and show you how that looks. When you're in there, you have all these different options, and these are all the things that I currently have open, all the windows I have open. So you'll notice this whiteboard is really handy. If I launch that, I'm now going to have a whiteboard where, now don't forget, you have a touch screen laptop now as a teacher. So you can come in here and you can actually use this. I'm just using my finger right now. You can use an inexpensive stylus. Remember, your teacher laptops, if you're a teacher, they actually fold over yoga style, so you can lay this flat on your desk while you're doing this. There's all sorts of cool features here, different tools, but that is the whiteboard. All right. Also within there, you can choose any other screen that's here. Okay, so I can share a web page again, as I said, whatever. So just be aware that that's there. If you are sharing something with audio, a video or a video clip or something, really important, you want to make sure you click these two check boxes. Otherwise, your participants won't hear the audio playing. All right, so make sure you check that. And then just to make your video as optimized as possible, less buffering, you'll want to make sure you check that. Okay. And then either when you're sharing this, an important point is double click to share, or highlight and make sure you click share to make sure you're sharing the screen. All right. There are a couple options here on the right-hand side, but probably not going to need to use those, but just be aware those are there. There is a chat which is nice. Just like it sounds, it allows students and teachers and whoever is in your meeting to communicate with one another in the chat. You can come over here if you see a lot of stuff going on in the chat and you're like, no, I need to shut this off. You can actually shut off the chat by clicking these three dots. Come in here and you can choose no one can chat, or you can choose everybody publicly, or just the host only in case you want to share resources like links and things with your participants. Just know that that's there. When record, which is the next thing I'm going to show you, it actually will not only record the visual, everything you share, your video, like right now, the webcam, it will also record your chat as a file. So you'll get all that too along with the video portion, which is really nice. To record your screen and your chat, you'll click the record button and you have two choices. I'm not sure if you all have both choices. You may only have the record on this computer. What that will do is it will save the video as an MP4 file on your computer. It will save it in documents in a folder called Zoom Meetings. But when you record it,
can I say one thing about that? There are going to be 3 different files in that, so be sure to look for the MP4.
Okay, good point. Inside the folder, you mean, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's going to get a sound folder, a sound file.
There you go. Good. Yeah. Thank you, Cindy, for clarifying that. When you click record, it will record. And when you end the meeting, you can either stop the recording and keep the meeting going, or when you hit end meeting, it will not only end the meeting, but it will prompt you, asking you what you want to call the video file and where you want to save it in case you want to change the location. But by default, it goes into a Zoom Meetings folder. Okay. Last thing here, reactions. This is just an easy way for participants, including the host, to be able to either offer an applause or maybe a thumbs up. Really useful as a teacher if you just want to make sure everybody understands what you're saying, get some clarification. You can ask everybody to click that and give you a thumbs up. There you go, Cindy. Yay! Cindy's giving an applause just as a quick visual that they're, check for understanding type stuff. So that is all the meeting controls that are here in Zoom. Once you're finished, you'll just click end meeting. Okay. And Cindy, Jessica, unless you feel another reason for me to stay here, I think I'm just going to go ahead and click end meeting. Should I stay here or are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, I'm going to click end meeting and we're going to go and get you out of here with how to set up your account and then how to download the app. All right. So I'm going to click end meeting for all. One more thing about Google Meet, and you can see right here, it actually took me straight to the folder where the saved files are. And I was mistaken. It actually is a Zoom folder, not Zoom recordings or Zoom webinars or Zoom meetings. It's a Zoom folder that's on your documents. And everyone you record gets its own folder. And when, as Cindy mentioned, when you open it up, you're going to see 3 different files. This is the video file. And I know that because I'm hovering over it. And if you look, it says MP4 file. This would be, the playback would be just the audio only in one format and then audio only in a different format. It actually looks like it offers you 2 different audio formats, but this is probably the most recognized, the top one, the M4A file. So there you go. So that's where things are recorded in Zoom. Oh, one more thing about Google Meet versus Zoom. If you use Google Meet and you as the host or the one who started the meeting leaves, Google Meet will allow the participants to stay in the meeting and still chat. So again, as a teacher, you may not want that to happen with your students. Okay, 2 things: how to set up your account and how to download the app. To set up your account, you are going to need to go to the Zoom website. And this is really the only time we're going to recommend you going to the Zoom website, this initial setting up the account. And then once beyond that, everything really can be done within the app itself. It's just cleaner, it's simpler. There's a lot of options on the Zoom website that can be a little confusing. So for simplicity's sake, we ask you just create your account and then download the app and then use the app. Once you're here, you're going to come over. There'll be a button over here. I'm signed in right now. Let me go and sign out so maybe I can show you a little bit different experience. You'll click this sign up, it's free button. Once you do that, it will ask you to sign in with Google. We want you to do this Google option because it's one less username and password that you have to remember. Sign in with your NEISD credentials, please, Google account. And then the next screen will just ask you to create your account. And then once you do that, Let me go ahead and sign in here. It will come to, I believe, this screen right here, or your profile. I forget, it's one of these two right here. But once you're here and you're in, you're pretty much done with the website. Your account has been created. You can move on to the next step, which is downloading the app. We've created a shortened URL here, what's called a bit.ly, that takes you directly to where you can go to download the app. So we encourage you, if you got your camera, you can snap a picture of that. If you know how to do a quick screenshot of my screen, you can get a quick screenshot of that. It's pretty easy to remember. bit.ly.com/Zoom launcher or bit.ly/. Oh, Glenn, nice, good call. Somebody put it in the chat. That was smart. Somebody just put it in our Google Meet chat, so now it's clickable. Hey, well done.
Hey, do this enough times, I get good.
So when you do that, it is not going to go to a web page. It looks like it's a web page. It isn't. And let me demonstrate. When you click this, it's actually going to download the app launcher onto your machine. But if you've ever downloaded anything, and by the way, I'm using Chrome. We recommend you use Chrome for this, okay? If you've ever downloaded anything on Chrome specifically, it often will give you this message right here. It's trying to warn you that, hey, are you downloading something legit? Because this, just remember, what you're downloading could harm your computer. We know it's legit, so go ahead and click keep. And then it's going to download this launcher. When you click that, it's going to install the application. And luckily, this is one of those web applications that does not require any admin privileges. It will just work for everybody, which is awesome. Once you do that, you can just, again, the way we started this webinar, just simply go over to your computer, search for Zoom, and you'll know you've got it installed if you see Start Zoom App. And that will take us back to where we started, which was right here. So there you go. We've thrown a lot at you. We're going to pause, I think, for some questions. See if anybody has some questions. You can put those in the chat. We'd appreciate it. Cindy, Jessica, were there any questions that were for the greater good of everybody that you saw in the chat?
We've been responding to them. Mostly it's been, what happens with the video? Can you just have an audio recording? We showed them that. Students have to create an account, and students do not need to have an account. Even today, and teachers either, I mean, you can, when you sign into a Zoom meeting, and I don't know if maybe you've done it with the announcements, if you just go and join a meeting, it will try to install the app on your computer. I like the app, but anyone could use it without having an account. And I don't know if I would encourage students to create an account. We probably just want them to be able to connect with us, and it's up to parents or whomever to decide about that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing about participants. They don't need to create an account. They just click your link. You ask them for their name, join, and they're in. That's what's so nice about this. It's nice and clean. Okay, well, if you have any other questions, go ahead and leave them in the chat. We're going to stick around for a few minutes. Let me just quickly look at my little list to make sure I'm not overlooking. It would be remiss if I didn't remind you about our resources. Don't forget the three things we showed you: the distance learning website, which can be found in Launchpad; the parent resource, parent and student resource, which can be found off of our NEISD homepage; and the ITS website to find your instructional technology specialist. We, again, would encourage you to reach out to your ITS for any support you need.
And yes, that on the parent website, there are instructions for how to use Zoom. That's right there. We have a video there. Remember?
Yes.
Can I put my link in my Google Classroom? Yes. And I would say, like, if you're just going to be connecting with your class, with your students, just use that personal room, and you have that. You may even want to set up office hours. And just have you may have like class meetings, but you could have office hours, for 30 minutes or something. They can just come in, ask you questions. You can do small group, you can do tutoring, really whatever works best. There's lots of flexibility there.
Yeah, there is, again, the quickest way to get that, your meeting, you can, if you're in a meeting, it's right here. You just copy this, give that to your students. If you're not in a meeting, the app, it's right here. And one thing I failed to show you is if you hover over the number, you can come over here to copy ID or copy invitation and then just share that. And that's if you're using your personal meeting ID. If you choose not to do that, when you schedule, you can actually get the invitation from within here. Once it's scheduled, I think I just saw it actually.
You know, I think that the invitation is really wordy and has a lot of information on it and can be confusing with having phone numbers and all. So if you just copy that URL and share that, that's usually the best thing.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thanks. Keep on keeping on. Enjoy your weekend. Put your computer away, please, if you can. I know it's easier said than done, especially you all who are getting ready for the big rush on Monday of students. Just remember to lean on us and support so that we can support you, and just know that we're in your corner. We're going to stick around and answer any more questions, but if you're